I was a lifeguard in high school and college, and I can distinctly remember one especially difficult rescue. It looked like just one woman, and she looked pretty petite from where I was standing, and she was struggling and waving for rescue, and I worked with 3 other guards, and we would talk on walkie-talkies, and it was my turn to dive in to rescue a potential drowning victim. And so I dove in and did what I'd been trained to do, and I grabbed this woman in a fireman's carry. I get her up on her back, and I start pulling her back towards shore, and I was like, wow, Zaruni, for such a tiny little woman, I mean, she is heavy. And I got to the point in trying to get her to shore that I thought, wow, this is one of the first times in a long time, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make the rescue. And I finally get her to the shore, and both of us are just like, and all of a sudden this huge man, which I found out soon was her husband, stood up behind her sputtering, and he was like, thank you so much for saving us. And I realized, oh my goodness, what was underneath the surface was this 220-pound man that I couldn't see. And I thought, that's what deception is. It is a weight. We can't live in the freedom God has created us for or enjoy the healthy relationships He has created us for when we've got this weight of deception. It actually does harm, not just to us and to our souls, but it does harm to our relationships. Not too long ago, Missy told me a little half-truth. And of course, I knew exactly what she had done. She had ordered a movie. We're at home in the pandemic, and a movie had come up on her iPad, and she pressed to rent the movie because she had found a little leap where she had my Amazon credit account. And so, of course, I immediately get this ping that I've been charged $19.99 for Trolls World Tour. And so I went around the corner where the television was, and she just immediately flipped the channel. And I said, honey, did you rent a movie? And she was like, no, ma'am. And I said, now I'm going to give you another chance, baby. I said, did you rent a movie? Because we have a rule. She's not allowed to buy anything on a computer unless she clears it with me first. She doesn't have her own little credit card. And so she ended up just sobbing and confessing. And so I showed her that I already knew she had rented the movie. And I said, baby, here's what you're going to learn. Truth and joy go hand in hand. If you will tell the truth, God takes the lid off your joy. You'll have more fun than you ever hoped you would have if you'll walk in the truth. But if you don't walk in the truth, it's going to feel like you're carrying a weight. And I thought of that man, not even knowing he was underneath the water. I could barely keep my head above water. So again, I go back to what Sheila said earlier, that, forgiveness is God's gift to us to live well, live abundantly in a world that's unfair. I think it's the same thing with truth. I think for us to be truth tellers, to seek truth, that's also God's gift to us, to live free in a world where bondage often reigns. A couple of years ago, another lifeguard story, I was at the beach by myself for some time alone, and I looked up, and there was a woman in front of me who looked like she was in trouble. And I kind of glanced on either side of me. We were at a beach where it wasn't very crowded, and I thought, who does this lady belong to? There are no lifeguards on duty. And soon I realized nobody is watching this chick who looks like she's really struggling. And so I took off and jumped in the water. And when I swam up to this woman, I started asking her questions. You didn't make sure she was actually drowning. I didn't want to try to rescue a stranger who was just doing gymnastics or something in the water. And when she responded to me, I could smell the alcohol on her breath. And I realized, this woman is not just in over her head. This woman's really inebriated. Long story short, it got dangerous. And I almost didn't get her in. And we finally got in. It was like Tom Hanks in Castaway. We fell face first in the sand. And then her party and friends came over and kind of claimed her. And I was like, oh, good night. I'm kind of done with the beach for today. And so I went back to the hotel, and I know the guy at the front desk. And he was like, did you have a great day at the beach? And I was like, yeah, not really. There's this boozy lady that I had to pull out of the waves. And he said, Lisa, why was she swimming? And I was like, well, I don't know. She shouldn't have been swimming. He goes, didn't you notice the red flags? He said, there's such a dangerous riptide today. It's a wonder both of you didn't drown. And even though I grew up as a lifeguard, it wasn't until then I realized that's why it was so hard to get in. We were being pulled in a riptide. And I think that's what the author of Hebrews is saying. That's what you're saying, Elaine. If we're not intentional about hanging on to truth, we have an enemy who's pulling us away from the truth. There's not this innocuous, if we just kind of hang on a little bit, we'll be able to maintain our grip. We have to be intentional about not being pulled away from the truth. And so it takes effort, it takes focus, it takes being in God's word, it takes a community of people who are speaking truth into your life. And that means we've got to be vulnerable about the fact that we are prone to wander. Lord, I feel it. I always want relationships in my life that serve as anchors too, who will tell me, Lisa, you seem out of line, or you've been speaking too quickly, or you haven't been kind. And so I think it's important to us when we talk about living in the truth that we also encourage all of us, remind each other to live in community, live in a community of truth tellers.
Hi everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe today and you'll never miss a new upload. Thanks for being a part of our Better Together community.